when we have a problem, we tend to focus on another thing that's going well instead of the problem. So that's the severance.
I give consent to sever my memories between my work life and my personal life.
Would you feel bad if you had a clone of yourself and you made it do all the things that you don't like to do?
You would have to.
There's a movie called The Substance. This is a tangent. Have you heard of this movie?
No.
Basically, you somehow give birth to this younger version of yourself.
Okay.
And you have to switch every 2 weeks or something.
You can't escape from yourself.
There's rules to The Substance. Like, remember, you're the same person. But of course, that's the first thing they throw out. They're like, I don't care about that person.
Yeah. If you're a really, really good actor.
Yeah.
You gotta have at least a screw loose. I think that's a lot of what happened with like Heath Ledger.
Oh, interesting.
Well, hello, beautiful.
I never talk about TV or movies, so this is a kind of a funny conversation. But there's another movie called Another Earth.
Yeah, on the juice thing, man. I feel like at some point it just dawned on me that like drinking one glass of like 8 to 10 ounces of orange juice or whatever was like the equivalent to eating like 23 oranges.
Oh, is
you
it
know
really?
what I mean?
That's
it's
a
like
lot.
it's
That's
a lot.
crazy.
I don't know exactly what the number is, but we're not supposed to eat that much. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
a normal hunter gatherer would be like after 2-3 oranges is like I'm tapping out, man.
Yeah,
I'm full.
no more
the
oranges,
fiber.
please.
Right. That's the thing is like once you start learning about nutrition, like fiber is what makes you feel full when it comes to fruit, and if you take that out and you're just drinking the juice, you're basically a hummingbird that's consuming 500 times.
You're mainlining fructose into your bloodstream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, did you ever do one of those continuous glucose monitors? Have you tried one of these?
No, I
they're
haven't,
not,
no.
honestly, they're not worth doing. Because you can't really do anything with the information, and all your diabetic friends will just laugh at you for using a thing that they have to use. They're like, so you're sticking needles in yourself now for fun? Why?
Just because.
But you'll be surprised if you ever do about how your blood sugar spikes when you think like, okay, I eat an orange, it spikes. You can eat sushi and it'll spike, and a lot of you can't really do too much about it. You can like add protein in your diet or whatever. But the whole point is when I drank juice, it immediately went into the red zone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter because you can get the same kind of information from logging it in an app like MacroFactor or MyFitnessPal, and it'll show you, oh, this is all carbs.
This is probably what's
sugar.
happening to your blood sugar.
Yeah,
right now.
it's pretty nuts. Like, the thing that really changed my life was weighing. My friend told me to weigh my food, and I was like, I'm never going to do that because it's a huge pain in the ass. And there's no way I'm going to do it. Like, imagine weighing everything you eat and then putting it into an app. Right. He goes, try it for 2 days. And you'll learn a ton about food. And then if you want to keep going, do it for 2 weeks. You will totally change the way you look at food. And I was like, all right, I can do it for 2 days.
Yeah.
So I did it for 2 days, and I was like, this is fascinating.
Game
I had
changer.
no idea how much protein was in stuff, fat was in stuff, carbs was in stuff. I thought, this is a normal portion of food. Right. No, this is what you're supposed to eat.
This is an American
for like
portion of food.
the whole day's worth of eggs and Or you're like, oh, it's just a little hash browns at a restaurant, 300 calories.
Exactly.
And you're like, what? So once I did that, I went for the 2 weeks, and then I've been weighing my food for years, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, now I have like preset meals.
And now it's easier to eye it. And you can get much closer than if you've never done it before. I did it for about 2 months.
Yeah,
it was right around the time where I was like, all right, enough's enough. I was doing the yo-yo thing, up and down, up and down, up and down. See. And I was just like, I gotta stop. Like the yo-yo has to be within a healthy range.
Was it your weight that was doing the yo-yo?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. What kind of range are we talking about?
So I don't know if you remember this, bro, because we met.
You do look like you lost weight, but I didn't want to say anything. Like,
yeah, you look great too, man.
Out of nowhere, I've lost a ton of weight.
You look like you put
actually.
on some muscle too.
I did. I lost 40 pounds of fat.
Damn.
Since I saw you.
Well done.
Or probably since I saw you last.
Yeah.
And then I put on 20. It's hard to gauge when you're losing in. I probably put on 20 to 25 pounds of muscle in the last. I mean, I'm 45, so it lasts like 3 years. Yeah. It's just not that fast.
So you've legit gone from like 26% body fat to like
38% body
38.
Fat. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I found a DEXA scan from when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was with my wife who was like skinny and hot, and I'm like, was I fat back then? She's like, I don't really remember you being fat, but you weren't thin. And then I looked at the DEXA scan and I was like, 192, 38.7% body fat.
Well,
That's fat as hell.
The data
Sorry.
says.
Yeah. The numbers are not, they're not too promising. Yeah. And so now I'm like 164.
Okay.
So I've basically lost almost 30 pounds period.
Yeah.
But I lost 40 pounds of fat, put on about 20 pounds of muscle. Maybe even those numbers might even be different now. I might have lost like 50 pounds of fat by now.
The body composition is what's more important than the weight number.
But I never in my life could see abdominal muscles.
Yeah.
And at age 45, I finally have the body I wanted when I was 20.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Damn it.
When you were in the pickup game.
That's right. Yeah. When I actually needed to look good to attract women, I was hopeless.
Yeah,
now that I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite easy.
Yeah, dude. I don't because we met like 20. It was like right after I started my show, so it's easier for me to remember. 2017, I would say, in Australia.
Was it? Yeah. Wow. Was that late? I guess it was. I remember we hung out in Australia with your wife.
Yeah, so 2017 was the first year, and then I came back the next year as a speaker. So I went as just an attendee in 17.
That's right.
Just to hang out and meet people, because I was on like 3 months into my show.
That was a hell of a flight. I can't even do those anymore.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was insane.
I have kids now. That's why.
Yeah, that's
I can't do anything now, actually, because I have kids. It's not the flight.
2 now, right?
Yeah, 5 and 3.
5 and 3, right about the same as ours.
It's pretty. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's right. It's really having kids is pretty interesting too, because it changes the way, of course, you think. People say like, "Oh, you have no time," or I don't know. Actually, I started to. This probably makes sense only to dads. I started to care about myself more.
Yes,
because I realized I don't want to set a crap example. I don't want to die early, first of all. Most of us are not in any more danger of that. But like 38% body fat, you're taking some time off the end, probably. Good time anyway.
For sure you are.
Joints are not
as far as health
good.
Span goes, as it relates to lifespan.
Yeah. My real wake-up call, I've said this on my own show, but I don't think anywhere else. My real wake-up call was my son Jaden, who's now 5. When he was 2, we were living with my brother-in-law because we were building a house next door. And he has this little, like, train that you can ride, and it makes noise, and it's got a dial pad, and you can make noise. It's a really popular kid's toy from this brand VTech or whatever. We have all this stuff. And he would always be like, "Daddy, push me." And I would push him, and I would get kind of winded. And I remember being on my knees on the floor and getting up and being like, and my wife's like, "Oh, those are some dad sounds," because I was grunting.
Totally.
And I was like, okay, I can stop grunting, but it's still actually hard to get off the floor.
The grunt was necessary.
It was,
to get me up off the floor.
Yeah, like it's not like, I'm getting off the chair. That's fake, right? Dad's just like doing that. This was like, oh, wait, I got to like move this leg over here manually. And so
no mobility, no flexibility.
None. And right about that time, COVID hit. And my friend Curtis, who used to run this huge chain of gyms in Canada, he called me in a panic and he's like, "Yo, we can't open our gyms. I'm calling all my business-minded friends because I need ideas." Because I was like, "Well, I can't help you pay your rent on 28 properties. Like, what are you going to do?" He's like, "I'm less worried about that than I am about my staff all having to leave, because once COVID's back, I need to rehire enough people to run the business. And retrain them. Yeah, good point. So he's like, "I need any idea on how to keep my staff busy." And I was like, what about having all of the ones that are qualified do online training? Because the trainers are actually the hardest people to hire. You can hire a front door guy.
Sure,
that's no problem. So he was like, "That's a good idea." Chatted for a while, hung up the phone. Like 3-4 months later, he's like, "By the way, we set up that online training thing that you came up with, and we've done, I can't remember, it's like 3,000 hours of training." And I was like, "Oh, I actually had a good idea. Like that feels good."
There's a gift card to Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah, and he's like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's funny you should call, because I just realized it took me 30 seconds to get up off the floor because I'm old now." And he's like, "What do you weigh?" And I was like, "I don't know, 190 or something." And he's like, "Okay, how tall are you again?" I'm like, 5'10" with my shoes on. And he's like, "Yeah, why don't you use one of my online trainers?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." And he's like, "Doesn't sound like it." And I was like, "All right, fair. What about once a week? I'll do a trainer." He's like, "How's twice a week? And then eventually 3 times, because that's how you actually get in shape." And I was like, I can't say no, because it was my idea, and he's offering me a gift, and it's kind of a dick move if I turn him down. So I was like, fine, thinking I'll do it for like 2 weeks, and then I'll be like, "I'm busy."
Yeah.
I did it for a couple weeks, and I was like, this is really hard, but I feel better already.
Yeah.
He hooked me up with a trainer for a long time. I probably shouldn't say exactly how long, because I don't want people to ask him for the same thing, but a long time. And it was absolutely life-changing, because I went from not being able to get up off the floor to being one of the fittest adults that I know that's not an ex-pro athlete
right.
at age 45.
I like the idea of being like an entrepreneurial athlete where
Yeah.
it's like you just feel better.
Yeah.
Not just energy levels, even affected like my confidence in the way that I approach
of
conversations and talk to people. It affects, it bleeds into every area. Like, it's so funny, man, because like we spend so much time focusing on, you know, certain areas at certain times of life.
Yeah.
You know, you're focused on money, or you're focused on health, or you're focused on family. And we like to think that we can extract this one area from these other areas, and
Yeah.
it's really not possible. Like, we're holistic beings
tough.
by nature. You know, this area is going to affect it. If you got a bad family life, it makes it more difficult to stay on top of your health. If you have bad health, it
it's
makes
true.
your money more difficult. Like,
There are extremes where people have only their business working and their family life and their health are falling apart.
yeah.
Or some version thereof. There are people who manage those extremes, but usually we hear about them because of their catastrophic downfall.
Yes.
At one time, so they'll have their $200 million exit or whatever, and then you find out that like their kids don't talk to them anymore. They have no relation. They are divorced, and also they have like some sort of heart issue from eating
Right.
Chipotle, or probably not Chipotle.
Yeah.
This episode is not sponsored by Chipotle. From eating McDonald's every day and trying to, or they work out like a beast and they have their business going, but the relationship with their wife is like non-existent.
Right.
I just see that a lot when I start talking to guys, and mostly guys who share this stuff. And guys, it is mostly guys who go into an extreme thing. Like if we have an uncomfortable situation, a lot of us, and again, especially men, but could also be my sample size. When we have a problem, we tend to focus on another thing that's going well instead of the problem. So it's like, yeah, my wife and I aren't getting along, or she's hitting perimenopause, or whatever it is, you know, depending on your age. You're like, oh, I could go to therapy for that. Or I could work out for 3 hours a day and really double down on my business.
Bury my head somewhere else and pretend it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Take a lot of business trips, work 7 days a week, and then tell myself I'm doing it for my family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just talked about that with a buddy the other day. I think it was probably on the show. And we're talking about that. Like you start selling yourself the story that it's for everybody else.
Yes.
I'm doing this for my kids. Like, what are you talking about? I don't love my kids, or I don't, you know. It's like, well, but your kids don't care.
They don't
man.
care.
They just want to spend some time with you.
Yeah, they don't care. My kids do not. They do not care. I told them in the simplest of terms. I was like, if you guys want new toys, Daddy has to work. And they were like, we just play. We already have Legos.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a
touche.
really fair argument. Yeah, like I know you're gonna want more later, but he's like
college.
Yeah. But also, they're not wrong. The simple argument is that they have is actually quite correct. Like in that moment, they don't need anything else. They just need their dad.
Yeah.
But it's really easy for me to be like, well, if you guys and if you take it, you're really. It becomes harder to argue with yourself because you go, well, if you want to go to college, well, actually, that's kind of handled by now. Well, if you want a down payment on a house, well, I'll probably have that and it'll be fine. If you want me to die and leave you with enough money to buy a really nice boat, you're going to let me go to work right now. And it's like, okay, well, if they don't care about that.
Yeah, I've tried to really position it more as like work is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's good. Like mom and dad like to work because we like to do things and we like to be productive and we like to contribute to society. And trying to instill in them that it's like, this is far more of like a happiness, meaning fulfillment play than it is like just a financial gain play. Although that is obviously a big part of it.
Sure.
Because like I said, at the end of the day, they don't care. We've been trying to, like my son's turning 6 next week, and we've now made more of a conscious decision to stop buying things, like stop buying more toys and presents and stuff, and start taking him on trips and doing
better.
more like experience things and memories.
That's
and
what all
like
the data shows, right? The data shows that people who spend money on experiences, this is for adults, but people who spend money on experiences are far happier than people who spend money on material items.
Yeah.
And the happiness lasts longer.
Yes.
If it's true for adults, it's almost certainly true for kids. As long as they're of enough age, well, I was going to say as long as they're old enough to remember something, but I'm not even sure it matters. I think young kids who aren't going to remember Disneyland probably still get some effect of that, even if it's lost by the time they're 10 or 12.
The formation of their brain, there's stuff that's like biologically hardwired into them that happens at a young age that you don't really, even if they can't remember it.
That's right. I mean? And plus, Disneyland and stuff like that is always for the parents to see their kids freak out with happiness.
Yeah.
But you're right. We took our kids to Taiwan and China a couple weeks ago which is the flight sucks, obviously.
No kidding.
They're 20 minutes in, we haven't even taken off yet. And Jaden's like, are we almost there? And I'm like, we're taxiing to the part where we take off. I have bad news for you, my man.
Yeah, in about 12 hours.
13 more hours if we're lucky. Right. And then we're on this ground in another place waiting to get off this stinky aluminum tube. Yeah, it's but once we got there, and I mean, jet lag was horrific, but they're going out, they're hearing Chinese everywhere, because my people who don't know, my wife speaks Chinese as well. So it's like they're in this totally different environment, and they really like it. And it's like, all right, are they going to remember every element of this? Maybe not, but it doesn't really matter. There's something that happens, I think, in their brain where even if they don't, again, not science, but I can only imagine that even if they don't remember the specific trip to Taiwan, they remember pleasant things and about the family and feeling loved and things like that. Yeah, more than they would feel if they were at home watching an iPad while I'm in my office.
Well, I think that it primes them to make better decisions as adults. Because I noticed I kind of got in that trap as a young adult where like I wanted the next thing. I needed the next iPhone. I needed the next iPad.
Oh, interesting.
The new thing that came out, I wanted that thing, and it gave me some sort of sense of satisfaction, maybe status, or I don't know what it would have been.
Sure.
But it made me feel a certain way, and I was always looking for things. And eventually, I got to the point where I was like, it's not really about the chase for things. It's really just about the ability to put myself in a position where I could afford whatever I do actually really want. Yeah. But I don't actually really want all of these things. It's more of a matter of like I want a rich and like happy life.
Yeah.
And rich, it doesn't necessarily mean materialistically rich. It just means full of things. And like if you don't have like, what are we minus memories? Like if you wipe your memory, who are you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting. It's funny. I talked about that at my show with Dr. David Eagleman. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a neuroscientist at Stanford, and I asked him if we would ever be able to upload our memory to the internet. And there's all these kind of philosophical questions that I didn't expect to happen. For example, if you upload the contents of your brain to the internet, which one is you?
Right.
And if you unplug that one from the internet, are you killing a version of yourself? Kind of, because but is memory consciousness or not?
Right.
So it really gets into this whole thing. And then also like what happens since your brain is constantly adapting and making new memories and doing its own thing. So then if you upload your memory to the internet yesterday, you're technically a different person today, right? You woke up, you worked out, you had some different food, you had a different conversation with your kids, with your wife, you listened to a different podcast. The internet version of you is frozen in time yesterday or is doing something in virtual reality, whatever.
It started its own divergent life path.
A timeline, yeah. So like then what happens? Like maybe you're old, your body's old, and you want to live forever in virtual reality on the internet. So you upload yourself, then someone kills your body.
Right.
Okay, well, that's not probably legal, but let's say that it is. So you just murdered yourself, and now there's this version of you, but it's not the same you. So like, there's so many different. He argues it in a much more eloquent way on my show because he's like, this is a bad idea for all these different reasons, but we have to like handle this legally and ethically because theoretically, if I'm really old and I'm in chronic pain, I kind of want to upload my good memories to the internet and maybe the bad ones, and then I just don't remember the pain anymore. I don't have it anymore. But then I got to get rid of this meat suit. Right. It's in bad shape, right? I've got, let's say I have cancer all over my body and I've got chronic pain everywhere. Maybe I'm over the meat suit thing. Right. But you have to wrap your mind around the fact that you are now dead. But you're not dead because your brain's over there. I don't know. It's just really hard to think about.
At some point, you might be willing to take the risk is the point. Like right now, I'm not willing to take the risk. But at some point, like you said, maybe I would be willing to take that risk.
One thing he said that was super interesting. This is off topic, but whatever. One thing he said that was super interesting was on the internet and online, you can speed up time and slow time down because time in our brain is just like this weird way of measuring things. It's not a real thing. Time is not apparently like a real thing. And I guess people who are really good at math can prove that somehow.
Sure.
So if you just uploaded your brain, your consciousness, memories, whatever it was to a computer, you could slow down time or you could speed it up. So you could live for the next billion years in the happiest moments of your life and you wouldn't have like your receptors wouldn't degrade from serotonin or whatever. It none of those things exist, those problems, right? Because that's like a mechanical brain problem. Or you could speed up time, or you could pause and you could say like, oh, wake me up in
Sure.
3,000 years. I want to see what the future's like. Yeah, and it would just be like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. You would lose consciousness,
Right.
and then the next thing you remember is gaining consciousness.
Yeah.
Have you seen Severance?
No, what is that?
Dude, it's such a good show. It's Adam Scott, who's the guy from Parks and Rec.
I see. Yeah.
He's in a bunch of comedy movies. This is kind of like his first bigger like drama role. And it's actually kind of funny because he's like the main guy. He's traditionally a comedy guy, and then Ben Stiller is the director, who's also traditionally a comedy guy. But then like they put this whole show together. It's on Apple TV Plus. There's 2 seasons out. I became an addict recently, but it's basically the whole premise is they opt in for this procedure where they can split their brain, and as soon as they come down the elevator at work, it makes them a different person.
So that's the severance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the severance is they have zero. So when they're at work, they have zero memory of anything other than work. And then once they leave work, they have no memory of anything that happened at work. So it's this theoretical, existence. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, only sometimes.
It's this theoretical existence of like once this new person is born, that's day one for that person, and all they know is being at work. So like when they gain consciousness, it's when the elevator doors open. And when they lose consciousness is when the elevator doors close. So all they ever know is an existence that fits in those walls at the work. And then all the other person knows is everything that's happening in the personal life.
Isn't the work person kind of annoyed that they have no life outside of work?
That becomes like a lot of the whole premise of the show is basically like the ethical, so there's people protesting this company because they have severed workers, and the severed workers are looked at as almost like
slaves.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. They're a work slave, and so they can put in requests to resign, and then their outer person gets to decide whether or not that resignation will be accepted.
Oh man!
So they're literally just trapped by the decisions of the person who's on the outside, because they're the actual person, and the person on the inside isn't a real person. So it's really fascinating.
Would you feel bad if you had a clone of yourself and you made it do all the things that you don't like to do?
That's you would have to.
You'd have
right?
to feel
you would
bad.
have to feel bad.
I would feel bad, and I think I would feel just as bad as if I had an actual slave and I made them do unpleasant things. Like I'd be like, this is just not right. I can't do this.
But the theoretical part of it is like you don't know what they're doing, so you can give yourself the excuse of like, maybe it's good. You have to believe that the company's exactly. So the company's showing you pictures of your inner person smiling and having fun and being like, here's what you know what I mean? So they're trying to convince you, obviously if a company's trying to get you to erase your memory, there's obviously things going on awry inside of the company that you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really fascinating thought experiment. And like more things come up as the show goes along. You're like, I didn't even think about that. Like that would be, that's crazy. That's true.
Smart.
That's what it would be.
That's really smart. There's a movie called The Substance. This is a little tangent. Have you heard of this movie?
No.
It's pretty gross, but like on that same token, I think it's Demi Moore. She's like a workout celebrity on TV, and she's getting a little older. And the producer, Dennis Quaid, is like, she's lost her mojo. What is she, 55 now? Nobody wants to see that, or something like that. And she's having like this severe midlife crisis, I guess you would say, identity crisis. And then she finds out about this stuff called The Substance, and what it is it's gross because it's like a dark horror movie or whatever, but basically you somehow give birth to this clone, not clone, but like a younger version of yourself.
Okay.
And you have to, it's also you. So you have to switch every 2 weeks or something. And if you don't, then the person who is in sleep mode, they start to age like times 10 or something for you, because they're on borrowed time, and the substance lets you switch, but you have to be living these 2 lives, and one person has to disappear. So she does this, and the young version of herself applies for her replacement, and she's like this young fitness star, and she's dating celebrities, and everyone loves her. And then she's like, I'm not going to let the old lady get back in charge again. So she stops doing the switch thing that you're supposed to do, and it of course all devolves from there and turns out really disgusting. But it reminded me of that, because it's like, there's rules to the substance. Like, remember, you're the same person. But of course, that's the first thing they throw out. They're like, I don't care about that person.
Yeah, right.
And they just spend that person's
Why would I want to be
life.
the old version of me at all, ever?
Right.
This is better.
So they and of course it ends in some sort of crazy final clash.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool thought experiment because you think like, oh, I would clone myself and make my clone do all this stuff that I don't like, and then you realize like it's still you.
That's basically just slave labor of myself.
Yeah.
Well, in the show, one of the more like powerful people, his wife gets pregnant and she severs herself to have the baby.
Oh no!
To go through childbirth without the memory of the pain of childbirth.
That's kind of sad though, right? That part
is.
Yeah,
but that becomes this big old thing, and there's protesters outside of the building all the time, trying to prevent severed workers from happening.
The key here is to not have large elements of your life that you despise so much that you would actually want someone else to do it for you.
Well, that's kind of basically
that's the point of the show, right?
The guy in the show just lost his wife and doesn't want to think about it, so he volunteers to be a severed worker.
That's a sympathetic character,
right?
So there you go. That's smart. Otherwise, it's like, oh, this is really clear. You shouldn't be doing this. But it's like, well, there's another. I never talk about TV or movies, so this is a kind of a funny conversation. But there's another movie called Another Earth, and what it is they find another Earth somewhere. It's approaching our planet, and it's like everyone's talking about it in the news, and they can see. Oops, I hit the mic. And they can see with telescopes or whatever that Earth has clones of all of us, and they're just living their lives on a parallel timeline. Well, this girl, there's a contest where they're going to send someone to that planet, and if they win, and they're going to get to go like meet their clone on that planet or whatever. This girl, I think she gets like drunk and drives, kills this guy's family, and he's miserable because he lost his wife and kids. And then she wins the contest, and she decides to give him the opportunity to go to the other Earth and basically reunite with his family. And I won't spoil it, but of course that doesn't work out perfectly in that particular way. And the ending is like really a surprise. But I thought that was a genius. It's all these sort of genius thought experiment things really work well. They're very entertaining because they get me thinking about things like this. And to your point, I've thought about like, oh, I wish I could clone myself and then I would be able to do all this other stuff. And then I realized, oh, maybe I shouldn't have all these things in my life that I hate so much that I want to literally clone myself and enslave myself so that I never have to do those things again.
Yeah, you want the easy button for all the things that you hate doing.
It's that Adam Sandler movie where he has the Bed Bath & Beyond remote where he can fast forward through things.
Click.
Wow, good memory.
Yeah.
And he fast forwards through all these events in his family's life and like the sex he doesn't feel like having and all this stuff. And then the remote learns and it automatically fast forwards through all that. And he realizes he's missing his life because the hard things and the tough things are an integral part of your life. Yeah. You never thought you'd get like a deep lesson out of an Adam Sandler movie. Yeah.
Let's go Happy Gilmore. What's
exactly. Oh, the other day when I was in LA, this is last week, I was in LA. I was at Sugarfish, which is like my favorite sushi spot.
Oh yeah, it's fire.
So good. And I'm like I'm in the corner and I'm listening to an audiobook and I'm staring off into the distance and I see this guy with like a bright shirt on, crazy shirt. And I'm just sort of like listening to an audiobook, staring off. Yeah. And then I noticed that guy looks up and he stares back at me and he's kind of annoyed. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely just like knowingly staring at this guy talking to his daughter. Daughter gets up, goes to the bathroom. Guy's still staring at me, and I'm like really kind of awkwardly like looking down now. And I'm like, don't look over there because he's gonna think you're looking at him. And then I noticed he got out his phone and looked down. I could see out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, is he still staring at me? So I look up and I realize it's Adam Sandler, and he probably thought, oh, this a-hole is going to come up to me and bug me while I'm with my daughter, and I'm going to stare him down and give him the death stare that's like, don't even think about it. Yeah. And I look over there, and he's like texting or something, and then I'm like, is that Adam Sandler? And his daughter comes back, and you know how he's got that trademark high-pitched voice? Yeah. He says something to her, and I was like, holy shit, that's your real voice? I didn't think that was his real voice. I thought he was always faking that voice, but it's not fake.
That's who he is.
Yeah, and then I was, of course, the whole meal consciously like looking at my phone and not because I'm like, I don't want to be that guy who's annoying.
Adam, come on my podcast.
Yeah, come on my podcast, man. Did you get my email?
Yeah, I'm sure that never happens. Yeah.
It's Sugarfish in Beverly Hills, so nobody bugged him there.
Yeah,
but
as soon as he walked outside.
As soon as
though.
he walks outside, yeah, he's probably got a driver because he's got to be a guy who gets annoyed 10 times a day, every single time he goes out of his house.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, from any interactions I've seen with him, he usually seems pretty gracious about it.
Still got to be annoying.
But it would not be easy. Like, it would just be difficult because you're not allowed to have any human experience ever. Like, you always have to be on to a certain degree, or else you're going to have some person who's like, Adam Sandler was an asshole to me.
Yes. Well, that's why they have to be gracious. Because it's never where I asked Shaq this question because he used to use the same recording studio as me at Podcast One.
Yeah.
And I said, people obviously approach you all the time because he can't hide.
Yeah.
Right. Even if he's like, I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah. Put on some Ray-Bans.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, who's the guy who's 7'1" standing in front of me at this concert? It's Shaquille O'Neal. Right. So I was like, hey, isn't it annoying that people come up to you all the time? Because even the guy I was with was like, holy shit, it's Shaquille. And I was like, calm down. There's a way to do this. He's going up to the studio. Just meet him there. Take your selfie there. Don't do it in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm actually okay with it, but he told me when he's eating, it's super annoying, and I can't even imagine how annoying it must be when your food's there, it's nice and warm, you're hungry, and someone's like, dude, Shaq, can we get a picture? And you're like, not really. Yeah. But you can't say that because then kids are like, oh, Shaq fell off.
Right.
And you're like, no, Shaq had a rack of ribs in front of him and it was dinner time and he was with his family.
Right.
Shaq didn't fall off. You just don't know appropriate boundaries.
Right. Well, you just don't know like the phone call they just got off of or the text message they're trying to like send back to their friend who's dying or something. Like there's always, so many things that happen in people's lives, and sometimes we forget with those people that they actually have real lives.
They're not allowed to be real people. That's the real loss you have, I think, when you're not that I would know, but from asking them that you're not allowed to have a real life. You're not allowed to have a bad day. Like you're right. If Adam Sandler was like, guys, leave me alone. Yeah. That is not worth it for him because his publicist has to get to work on that when that hits TMZ. Yep. Adam Sandler has freak out at Sugarfish when approached by podcaster Jordan Harbinger, who then whined on Twitter that he wasn't nice to him or something, right? And not that I would ever do that, but like, so he has to go, oh, hey, man, nice to meet you, even though his daughter's there and is like, not again, can't go anywhere with dad.
Because then it affects, like for people like that, because he's not just an actor, not
brand.
To trivialize it. Exactly. He's a brand. He's a producer. Like he has a production company. Yeah. Like this would actually affect box office numbers, potentially. Revenue, people's jobs that you care about. It would potentially affect.
That's true.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it would be so weird to have your success just like built into this like public opinion of you.
Well, it's also a snowball effect, right? I've heard about this from friends of mine that have a high public profile. Let's say that you talk to celebrity A and they're not very nice because they're having a bad day. I remember meeting that person and I go, they were mostly nice, but you're right. At the end of the thing, I remember this one thing they did that was also kind of bad.
Searching for the,
And then we post about that, and then suddenly people who maybe never met this person and are on a bandwagon or have met them once were like, yeah, they were at Trader Joe's and he cut in front of me in line. And it's like, didn't even notice you were there, but I guess I cut in front of you. And then then it's like ... There's this whole rush of people who say like this person's a dick. And then it's like, do we want to cast that guy in the movie after all if they're currently undergoing a wave of bad press? Not really. So maybe they don't get cast in that Avengers movie to escalate their career. And it depends if they're A-list or B-list or whatever, trying to move up the chain. It's not a good look, and it can cost them a lot of money.
Well, I heard what's his name? Terrence Howard, I think his name is. I don't know why that sounds. It seems like it sounds wrong to me. But anyway, the guy that was in the first Iron Man movie. And then they swapped him out for the other guy in the next Iron Man movie, and then that guy ended up doing all the Avengers movies. Oof. I guess it was basically like he had been just talking about just crazy philosophical scientific things. That's right. He went on Rogan eventually, and then Rogan also did the correct thing and brought him back on, as well as I think Brett Weinstein, who's like a genius mathematician, who was debunking all the things that he was saying on the show together. But I think he had like started talking about that stuff, and then they just blacklisted him and then took him off. And he made a little bit of money on the first Iron Man movie, but obviously nothing compared to what
lost
the franchise was going to give them.
Tens to hundreds of millions once you put in toys and sequels and blah, 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 depending on how long that franchise lasts, which is Marvel is not going anywhere. You're right. I forgot that was the same guy.
Yeah.
He was going to be War Machine or whatever the other Iron Man guy suit name is. But he started being like
Rhodey, Colonel Rhodes is his name in the movie.
I think War Machine is the name of the suit or the guy in the suit, whatever. So he started, I forgot all about that. And he started being like, math is wrong and there's actually a different plane. I invented this other, and it just sounds, it's sad because it's clearly like a mental illness.
Right.
He's not well.
Right.
But you can't have somebody like that in your Marvel franchise when they need to be doing appearances.
When it's a loose cannon. Yeah. You don't know what they're going to say.
No.
Yeah. And from what I understand, too, is like he actually got Robert Downey Jr. involved in the first film. like it was him who kind of like brought him.
Oh, man.
Like helped facilitate, at least from his perspective, which obviously could be completely wrong.
Yeah, well, he also thinks that there's like an extra dimension that he's
like
invented
1 times 1 equals 2 or something
Yeah,
like that.
he's trying to reinvent it. I feel bad because it is funny to joke about, but at the same time, you're like, okay, so you have a neurodegenerative disease or something, and you're not getting help.
At least neurotic. Like
something.
You believe that that the world exists to keep this thing down. It's weird because he's kind of older, and you think, well, schizophrenia manifests in your 20s and in your 50s. What's going on? Yeah. Well, from what he said, because I listened to the full episode, not full episode, but most of it on Rogan when he first went on, just because I was like, I haven't seen this guy in forever. It's like, cool.
Yeah,
listen to this. And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, this was not at all where I was imagining this conversation was going to go. But he starts the conversation with saying, like, I used to have dreams when I was like that his first memory was being born. That he remembers like coming out of the womb and like he has memories of like these vector things that he eventually saw from this other mathematician and proved them wrong. And I was just like, I don't know. It seems like it formed a long time ago, and it's been kind of a part of him, but he shoved it down.
It could have been a guy. He could have been a guy who hit it well. I mean, Hollywood is full of people you think are awesome, and then when you meet them, they're absolutely effing insane.
Dude, if you're a really, really good actor, you got to have at least a screw loose, like because I
kind of agree with that.
you kind of have to. You have to be able to put your that form of artistry or art. Like it almost requires you to have something like that. And you see it with someone like a Will Smith who just like on national television snapped like that. And it was like, he's a method actor. Yeah, like it would be really difficult to start parsing through the different characters that you're playing, especially when they're really deep, heavy roles, and remember who you are versus remember who this character was. You'd start to lose touch with yourself. You bury yourself deep down almost.
Dude, I 100% agree with that. In fact, I'm gonna ask next time I do a celebrity interview on the Jordan Harbinger Show. I'm gonna ask them that because look at a guy like David Duchovny. I don't have anything controversial to say about him. I don't know, but he's like known as this really cool guy. Right, and in every part, he's cool. And you think, if you're that cool when you're acting, or Robert Downey Jr.,
sure,
you would never not want to be that guy, right? Because why would you be like less of an awesome person in real life? But the truth is, it's kind of bad for you to constantly be on and performing all the time, even if everyone likes who you are in Iron Man more than they like the real you. Yeah. So it would be really tempting to just be that person all the time. Totally. But that's got to be really
likable,
bad
charismatic, cool playboy guy.
That's got to be really bad for you to do, because then you realize that nobody knows the real you and therefore doesn't necessarily like or is not friends with, is not working with.
Even you don't know the real you.
And you don't know the real you.
That's the scary part.
So then you're completely fake all the time.
Well, I think that's a lot of what happened with like Heath Ledger.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? Like he
became the Joker.
Yeah, and from what I read too, he was doing another role where he was playing Satan, like around that same time. To put yourself, and he's an amazing actor.
He was really good.
So putting himself in those roles and becoming the Joker, becoming Satan himself, like. That's uncharted territory, my friend. Like it would be really difficult to start parsing through pieces of that and being like, okay, but that's not me. I am not these people. I am this person. You'd have to like wake up in the morning and do affirmations about like, I am Heath. I am Heath. You know what I mean? Like I am not the Joker.
He was such a legend, man. I still think he's the best Joker.
Potentially the best villain. Like
yeah.
any superhero movie for sure. To me, like I don't know who I would put above him. Of any of the superhero films.
In fact, the only other Joker that I remember that was remotely good was Jack Nicholson. And it was a totally different vibe, of course.
Absolutely. Well, and at the time it was cool, but then like when Heath Ledger came out and played that eccentric version of it, it was like, this is the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's what made the Christopher Nolan films so good.
Yeah, it was way darker with Heath.
Yeah.
I just remember him being because Jack Nicholson had like the clean makeup, and then Heath Ledger had like the messy, like angrily drawn on Joker face. That was way darker. And then of course when he's like, "I'm gonna make this pencil disappear," bam, and you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like the shock, exactly. The shock level from that was like, that's just one of those scenes where your life changes. Your life is not the same. After you see that, you're just like, "Oh my god!"
Well, Christopher Nolan like turned Batman into adult franchise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it was no longer like, this is what I watched when I was a kid.
Whimsical.
Like most, exactly. It turned really like gritty and dark, which made the films awesome. And Tom Hardy did a great job as Bane in the next one.
Oh yeah.
And Tom Hardy's one of my favorite actors.
Tom Hardy's so solid. Good. Yeah, I remember that accent that he had was crazy too. That like Irish traveler accent.
Yeah.
For Bane.
I saw him talk a little bit about this in an interview one time. He was talking about how he like kind of he presented like a bunch of different examples to Christopher Nolan of like, here's what we could potentially go with. And he was eventually just like, well, sometimes he's like, at some point you just have to commit to this certain version of the character and just hope that people accept it, because they could also just be like, that sounds dumb. Like it sounds frivolous, and it sounds like the opposite of a villain, and Batman's kind of weird in that way, because Batman has this like, what are you doing? Typical villain voice, you know what I mean? And then Bane's like,
you merely adopted the dog. I was born in it.
I was born.
Yeah, that's crazy. That accent is crazy. And I pick up a lot on languages because I love learning different languages. So whenever a villain has a certain way of talking, I try to imitate it privately, because it's usually not good. but then like, I love where they get their influences from, and I found out that Tom Hardy had based his Bane accent off of a boxer named Bobby Gunn. Okay, who's like he says gypsy. I know you're not supposed to say gypsy, but he himself says it, so I feel like we're
that's on him.
It's on him, and his story is like nuts. He was also on my show. Basically, these guys, these Irish travelers, they live in caravans or whatever, and they basically never involve authorities. They do like home births. They fight their problems out. They beat each other up all the time, and then it's sort of back to normal. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of. It's just like a crazy scene. But they also
Blinders style.
They bare knuckle fight, and that's the sport that they're good at. And so this guy Bobby Gunn, who's like probably in his late 50s now or even 60s, he talks about bare knuckle fighting, and he showed me. He'll text me a video here and there, and he's like, "Here's an underground fight," and it's him being like, "Bink," and you just see the guy's eye like pop out, and I'm like, "Didn't look like you hit him that hard." And he's like, "No, I didn't want to hurt him. I just broke his cheekbone, and then I had to hit him again, and his eye came."
By
out.
Hurt him, he means kill him.
Yeah, and I'm like, so how? Because it really looks like he hit him like with a 10 to 15% hit, and he's like, "Yeah, it was about a 10-15%." And I was like, "You really don't want to get punched by this dude."
No.
And it's crazy that he's not an international celebrity. Yeah, because he's really, really good at what he does. But apparently, the sport of bare knuckle boxing is like illegal for good reason. But it's
they're bringing it back though.
Nuts.
They got the bare knuckle.
They are
league.
So he started that, and then. Really? I don't want to say too much just because I don't know all the details, but apparently he started that with a friend, and then, is no longer involved.
People with money took over.
Yeah, that's exactly what his version of the story is, and I 100% believe that, because that happens all the time.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Especially to somebody who doesn't operate with contracts and doesn't talk to lawyers and is just sort of like...
like Famous Amos cookies.
Yeah, look,
you know what I mean?
Irish travelers are not people who go through education. That's like part of their thing is they go to school till 3rd grade or 4th grade and they stop most of the time. And so that's somebody you can take advantage of in a business situation. So but it was, anyway, he's just incredibly skilled. And anyway, so his accent is, I remember the going, basis. What kind of accent is that? He's like, it's an Irish traveler accent. So they have their own languages, because they come from all these different parts of the world, and they live in different parts of the world. But they have their own languages that are secret, and then they have the English version that they speak. But man, it's really sometimes quite hard to understand. So that's what Bane's accent is based on, is an Irish traveler accent, is specifically this tough bare knuckle boxer Bobby Gunn.
That's what makes people like him so good, is their ability to like really fall into those things. In the same interview, he was talking about that, and then talking about the voice that he formulated for Venom. And they're two completely different things. And I didn't even realize, like, watching Venom, that it was Tom Hardy.
I didn't know that,
doing
actually.
The voice.
Yeah. So he does his own voice. I just figured they hired a voice actor for it.
Yeah, and he basically said he like based it on a dog. Like what's the energy of a dog that I could give? And when you watch the movie, it's like that is true. Like, it gives you this empathy for this like beast, savage, gross looking thing.
Yeah.
But it's got this real like Labrador retriever.
It does, because his tongue's
energy.
always hanging out and being kind of silly and gross.
Right.
Surprisingly,
he just wants to like play and have fun and eat people.
Eat people. Surprisingly, I can't get my wife to watch Venom.
Yeah, surprisingly.
So we're still on The Office.
You know what? Also a great show. Jackie actually watched all the Venom movies with me recently, and she was surprised how much she liked them. So
that's good to know.
There you go, Jen.
Is it scary? This is too scary for the kids, right? Yeah. I haven't seen any of them. So if there's people eating, it's probably
heads being bitten off. Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not good for the 6-year-old, the 5-year-olds, and the 3-year-olds.
They may have nightmares.
Yeah.
Well, listen, dude. It's rare that I think this is actually the first time we've ever done anything in person. I think
it might be
done a couple
of
a
show anyway. Yeah,
and then hung out a couple times in person, a few times in person, and then I don't know what it was. I just stopped going to like a bunch of podcasting things recently.
Oh,
you did too?
I stopped. I'm going to the London podcast show in May.
Okay.
But I stopped going to Podcast Movement for the most part. It's really, well, look, once you have kids, you got to decide.
Exactly.
When do I want to be away from my family? And if it's just, maybe I'll go out to dinner with a couple of my friends and have some drinks and then skip all of the talks, it's like,
Which is exactly what I do.
Fly out to Chicago to do that. And then it's like, London, I'm taking my wife to Paris. And then we're going to hang out in London, and then I'm going to do a thing for 2 days, and I'm out.
Right.
But it's hard to be like, let's go to Fort Worth in summer, where it's 104 degrees. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be near the airport. We're not going to be downtown.
Yeah, exactly.
No thanks.
Yeah,
I'm good.
But yeah, it's been cool watching the Jordan Harbinger Show.
I appreciate
because so it was like your show, JLD. Bigger Pockets, Tim Ferriss, like those were like the first batch of shows that I started listening to back in like 2015, 2016, probably somewhere in there.
Making me feel old. Yeah, that's right.
And then
it doesn't sound like a long time ago, but it was a decade ago.
It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it was over 1,000 episodes ago for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Which is pretty crazy.
Well over. That's crazy.
But I remember, like having those conversations in Australia about the split and everything. I was just like, when I thought that one dude was your brother, and you were like, oh,
he uses the same name as me, last name as me, and I'm like, about that, that's a thing that I can't get him to stop doing.
Yeah. It's like I just remember because I said it because I was a subscriber, like I wasn't on the outs, like I knew a little bit about what was going on, but like just didn't know that was a thing. And I was like, it's got to be weird that it's your brother. And you're like, he's not my brother.
That's right. I can't say it loud enough. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people are like, that must make for an awkward Thanksgiving. And I'm like, oh, no, we're not actually related. No. And people are like, wait a minute. I'm like, no, they
just use the last name Harbinger.
The guy who uses the name to get the SEO or whatever. and then it's funny because people are like, oh, there's two sides to every story. And I'm like, hey, I 100% agree. I'm not trying to convince you one way or another.
Sure.
And they're like, but isn't it weird that you're related? And I'm like, oh, no, he's just using my last name and it looks like we're related. And then they're like, oh, okay, maybe there's not two totally different sides.
It's maybe not 50-50.
Exactly.
Maybe like 80-20. Exactly. Like they might have something to say, but there might be, that's a pretty bad one.
That sort of says all you need to know. And the other, there's other things that I won't say in public that are kind of like where people go, oh, no, that matters, you know.
In retrospect, it's easy to look back and be like, okay, well, you clearly made the right decision. Yeah. But at the time, you didn't know any of that.
No, right? That was terrifying. Because, you have, I didn't have kids at the time, but it was like, how am I going to start over in a tech sector after losing an 11-year head start? Right. Holy crap. And everyone's like,
because your podcast, like you started
2006.
Yeah.
Because everyone's, they're like, oh, but you already know what you're doing. Okay, well, what is that going to do? Save me 2 years, maybe? Right. No, it saved me like 10 years.
Right.
But I didn't know that. I just thought it's going to be impossible to get that first to market advantage that you had. Because early days, there were like 800 podcasts. So people could try the top 200 and then find you and stick with you and ditch the rest or whatever. And you were good. Now you can't try the first top 15,000 podcasts or whatever. There's millions of them. So it became impossible. But luckily there was a whole huge audience of people that were like, what happened to Jordan Harbinger? And I remember answering that question on Quora, which no one uses anymore, and making web pages that were like, where's Jordan Harbinger? Or what happened to Jordan? And that got my audience to come back by the tens of thousands over the course of a few months.
Okay.
That was awesome. Occasionally now I'll go on a show like this and I'll get an email that's like, oh yeah, I used to listen to your old show and then you were gone and then I unsubscribed and then I just like never found you again. And then they'll go, I'm back on the Jordan Harbinger show.
Right.
I forgot that you existed, basically. And then they'll resubscribe. And then, it's kind of funny to hear people starting on episode 1 when that was like so long, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh my God, you have kids now. I'm like, oh, you're still in the middle of the catalog.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
funny.
Yeah, you're expecting.
Yeah. Oh, well, your wife's pregnant. I'm like, oh, just wait. Just keep listening.
Right. For the podcast space in general, do you feel like at any point anybody could start a show and have it do well?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do, because every time I think it's too late, I realize that it's early innings. Maybe it's not the second inning. It was the second inning during COVID when everyone's like, oh, everyone has a podcast. I'm like, no, this is just when people are finding out about it. This is like, that was like Bitcoin 2017, where everybody was buying Bitcoin and everyone's like, oh, it's too late. It's like $300 now or $3,000 now.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to buy a bunch of it.
Yeah.
And people were like, you're an idiot. It's already like 100x.
It's maxed out. There's no way.
And I'm like, I don't know. And then I put it's funny because I put a bunch of money into Bitcoin then. And I remember restarting my podcast like a year later. And it was kind of the same thing.
Sure.
It was like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this Bitcoin, see what happens. I might lose a little money. That's not what happened to Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. It's now $90,000 or something. And I got most of mine under 3,000 or something like that, I think, back then. But podcasting, it was like, oh man, there's so many podcasts. Restarted my show. Then kind of COVID hit a few years after that. And people were really just diving into podcasting. But the thing is with podcasting, most people quit, as you know.
Yeah.
So if you persevere and you end up doing 50 plus episodes, you're starting to get good at it after a while. And if you enjoy doing it, you kind of have an advantage, because you shouldn't start a show to make money. I think it's like the worst way to make money.
Sure.
I mean, it's like going to Hollywood and being like, I'm going to be a movie star. It's like, all right, your odds are terrible.
Right.
Might happen.
Good
Probably
luck.
not.
Yeah.
I hope you like folding towels at Equinox, you know?
Right.
Or whatever. And so podcasting is the same way. Like if you start and it's a hobby and it accidentally builds an audience that pays for a vacation every year, you are crushing it. You're in the top probably 1% if you're making, I don't know, 5-10 grand a year with your co-hosts. Like, congratulations. So if you do it to make money, or if you do it as a hobby to have fun, you're probably going to win, because you're going to keep doing it while everyone else falls off.
You got to do whatever you can to keep doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's not going to guarantee success, but it's going to guarantee that you keep going while other people fall off, and you'll get good enough that you'll build an audience of a few thousand people. That's enough to sell a mattress to here and there, and it's enough to pay for the bills of hosting and running a show. You just won't get paid a lot for your time, but that's not what hobbies are about. I always noticed that about podcasting that I thought was funny. If you like building Legos, nobody's like, how long do you think I can monetize this?
Yeah, right.
Or like, how many Lego sets do I need to build until I can start making this positive ROI for my time? No one says that. No one's collecting model trains and is like, one day this is going to be worth so much money.
Yeah, right.
You know, like no one says that.
Yeah, they don't have a deck.
No, there's no deck.
Yeah.
So with podcasting, it's weird because you get these people who are like, it's just a hobby. I don't expect to ever make money. But if I did, how big would the audience have to be? And it's like, this is just a weird question that makes me think that you secretly believe that you will eventually make a bunch of money off this, which is an unhealthy belief to have. Not that you shouldn't believe in yourself and your the ability to monetize a hobby, but the fact that you're thinking about turning a hobby into a job is actually one of the best ways to make sure that you don't like this hobby anymore.
Yeah.
Because the second you start thinking of something as a job, it becomes a job.
Right.
And that's fine if you're like, wow, my show's pretty big now. I think I should probably monetize it. Or, wow, it's making $40,000 a year. How much more do I have to get? How much bigger do I have to get before I can quit my day job? That's fine. then you can turn it into a job, but you're still going to take some of the fun away. I love doing my show, but I am under no illusion that this is just a hobby because I have people who work for me that depend on their paycheck. This is how I feed my kids. So I have to be really serious about this. I'm renegotiating my contract now with Podcast One, and there's a morality clause, and it's like, you can't do bad stuff and get caught for it. That's the key. Don't get caught for it.
You can't have a Ray Donovan on staff.
You can't. You can't do bad stuff and get caught for it because it makes the brand look bad. It's not that restrictive. I can't like chop up a line of cocaine on this table and do it. Fine. I think I'll be okay.
We'll do that after.
Yeah, we'll do that when the cameras are up. So the idea behind it is like, this starts to control your life, but like, you shouldn't do that with something you're just enjoying doing for fun. And I notice with podcasting, people are rushing in to try and figuring out how to do that. Yeah. And it happens with it's not just podcasting. It happens with every sort of hobby that can be turned into a business.
Sure.
I have this Instagram and I love taking pictures of, I don't know, vegan food in Bali. How can I turn this into a job?
Right.
Kind of the wrong question.
Yeah.
How can I best serve the audience? How can I make this more fun? How can I reach more people? Fine. But if it's how can I reach more people so I can sell them my cookbook, you're really towing the line between ruining something that you love and for no good reason.
Yeah. I love that's why I love watching Pat Flynn's stuff with this Pokemon thing that he started. Yeah. It was super cool just to watch the whole thing start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it was, like you said, it was just like a hobby, something that he enjoyed doing with his son.
Yeah.
Just like, we like doing Pokemon cards. So like, let's
film it
and throw it online and see what happens. And now it's eclipsed all of his other things. Yeah. Just this, like, I forget what he calls it, some deep pocket monster or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's blowing up on TikTok. His YouTube channel, I think, is over 1 million subscribers now or something like that. Just from a hobby that turned into something.
Yeah.
But probably not from the perspective of like, I want to monetize Pokemon with my son.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
He's also Pat Flynn is a really good guy to speak to kids because he's got a childlike curiosity. He's really positive. He's a nice guy. And he also looks frozen in time. Like, he's never going to not look like a teenager. Even though he's got like gray hair, he probably, by now, maybe, I'm not sure. He's never going to look like an old, weird guy like me.
He's an easy dude to like.
Yeah,
sure.
And very likable. And you can tell he's not just he's not like pretending to like it. He likes it.
Right.
I think that's a good example because trying to create a lot of people, they run from their job into a business because they're like, oh, my boss is a dick and I got to do all this stuff I hate. So they're running from something when they start a business, but really you kind of have to be running to something that you love. So like with podcasting, I remember when I left, I used to be a lawyer, right? As you know, but other people may not. I used to be a finance attorney. So when I left that, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a 80% pay cut if I do this. But then I remember thinking, okay, what's my life going to be like at that? Okay, I might have to have a side hustle. I might have to do this other stuff part-time, but I can still do the podcast and I can still do this. And if I do this and this and this and this, I'll be able to survive. And that's fine. That sounds fine. And then my podcast blew up and I was like, oh my God, I'm making more money than the partners at the law firm that I left. Well, that was an accident, but I was running to it because I really loved it. It didn't happen overnight. I wasn't running from it because I was like, oh, being a lawyer sucks. The hours are so long. Maybe I'll find this easy thing to do, like talking to a microphone and do a podcast, because nobody knew what those were when I started.
Right.
And I had no reason. I wasn't one of those who's like, listen, 2006, just sit through this. Podcasting is going to become so big, we'll be able to make a living off of it. That would have been a terrible
Presidential
bet.
Elections are going to be decided on this medium.
That's right. Yeah. No, that would have been a terrible bet, even though it accidentally turned out to be true.
Right.
That would have been a ridiculous bet to make.
Yeah.
And a lot of my early YouTube friends, they were just like, they started when there were no ads on YouTube. They just did it because it was fun.
Right.
And then some of them did stuff like, I think there were ways to kind of beg for money on YouTube back in the day, like Patreon-ish type things, or you'd sell like a mug with your face on it and, pay your rent that way. But those guys did it because they had a love of the game. Now you get people who go in there and they're starting with a channel monetization idea. They have media companies. There's nothing wrong with that, but those are professionals.
Sure.
If you are not a professional in that space, you should go and you really need to be running to something that you love. Like, I just love making kid songs. We have so many great ideas. It's the funnest thing ever. Make a kid song channel. If you're like, how do I make a bunch of money? I hate singing, I hate dancing, but kid songs are trending.
Yeah.
it's not going to be something you love to do. Right. You're just going to create another job that you hate, only now it's your butt on the line if things don't go well. At least if you have a job at a company you don't like, you can leave.
Well, and then you get pigeonholed. You just it turns into handcuffs in a different way.
Yeah.
Because then you start creating content for the sake of it doing well.
Yeah.
So like I have some creator friends that are like this now, where like they started their YouTube channel doing this thing because they loved it.
Yeah.
And then they made one video that was like this other thing, but that one blew up.
Yeah.
So they're like, I guess I should start making more of that video. And then all of a sudden their channel's over here. It has nothing to do with what they love, but now they have to continue making videos because they made the switch to this is my income now. And I rely on this $6,000 a month that I make in YouTube AdSense.
Yeah.
So like I have to continue making videos about this, even though I don't care about it at all.
Dude, I call this the Jerry Springer effect. Remember? Well, you probably don't because you're younger than me by a lot. But Jerry Springer used to be a serious journalist.
Oh, really?
Nobody knows this. Well, not nobody. People my age know this. He used to have serious talk shows. I think he was a politician that ran for office and was like the mayor of Cincinnati. I always get this wrong. Mayor of, or the governor of Ohio. I forget. It was like a real.
He was trying to be a serious guy,
and he was a serious guy. And then this knucklehead Geraldo Rivera, who I'm sure you've heard of.
I should know.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Anyway, he's a shock journalist who does stupid things, and he had a corny ass talk show called Geraldo. His name used to be Jerry Rivers, but he decided to be Geraldo Rivera, which is so ridiculous. But
sounds on brand.
It explains everything you need to know about Geraldo Rivera. So he had a show, and it was also a talk show, and it competed with Jerry Springer in that daytime time slot, and he had on. It was like KKK guys, Nazi guys, and Black Panthers. Jesus. And then they started fighting. Surprise. He gets hit in the face with a chair, breaks his nose. It was all real. His ratings went through the roof. So what does Jenny Jones, Ricky Lake, Jerry Springer, what do they have to do? They have to be... Jerry Springer eventually became the king of that, right?
Yeah.
Jerry, Chance. He's got the bouncer guy throwing people around. It became wrestling. It became wrestling, but a talk show. And they found the trashiest people that they could find in the U.S. and Canada, and they brought them in and, stirred the pot just to see what would happen and film the whole thing. Jerry Springer then, later in his career, toyed with the idea of going back into politics, and everybody was just kind of like, no.
Yeah, it's a big fat no, my friend. Yeah.
You are essentially kind of and I don't mean this in a derogatory way because he was a very smart, very nice guy. You're essentially like a clownish entertainer at this point. Stick to that. No one's going to take you seriously. And that was sad, but true.
Yeah.
Because people like Jerry Springer is that guy. It's like you wouldn't want Hulk Hogan to be anything but a wrestler. You wouldn't expect him to be like a serious athletics coach.
Right.
Those guys are serious athletes. Nobody views wrestlers as that way. Few people do, especially the 80s guys. You view them as like these cartoonish characters. That's what Jerry Springer became. So that's the same thing. My point is, with the YouTube guys, it's the same thing. I know so many YouTube creators where they do that. They go, this is a show about science. And then it's like, you look at it 5 years later because I wonder what happened to that guy. And it's like, here's a hot out-of-work actress that still looks pretty good and is going to say controversial stuff about Donald Trump. And it's like, wasn't the show about brain science like 3 years ago?
That's the new arc. I've seen that's the new arc now is like people start with a business show and then all of a sudden they're talking politics within like 2 years. It's completely unqualified, totally underqualified. Like they know next to nothing except for that they voted for this person or whatever. And then all of a sudden now they have an entire political show because obviously the content's going to perform when you just get up there and say polarizing shit.
Yes.
Just because you want to say it.
There's tons of that. And when you look at it and you go like, okay, I can't even watch this because it's just totally unfounded nonsense, left-wingy or right-wingy stuff. Oh yeah, something, the Democrats this, something, they're making pedophilia legal in California, which is not true, obviously. But like people will just suck that in. And it's like, man, the last episode of this show I saw, they were interviewing Molly Bloom about running underground poker games in Hollywood, and it was super interesting. And now he's talking about this with these idiots.
He's talking about OnlyFans dildos or something.
Yeah, it's just what on earth happened? And what happened is the algorithm told him, hey, you will get way more. They're all dumb, but you'll get more people with 2 brain cells, and you can monetize those people. And if you're trying to talk to smart people, you got to compete with Jordan Harbinger and Travis, and you got to compete with Tim Ferriss, and you got to compete with
Chris Williamson,
Dak Shepard, whatever. But if you do this, you're competing with a bunch of numbskulls on YouTube so you can do well and we'll put you front and center. Oh, and you're also already rich and you can throw money at this.
Right.
Cool. You can buy ads and make it look like a thing. And so that's the arc. And I think we're probably talking about the same person. But like,
I have a couple in my,
there's
in
a few.
my mind.
But you're right. That's the arc. It's like, oh, I'm successful because I run a multi-level marketing scam. And then it's like, oh, nobody wants to hear my business stuff. They want to hear my political takes. Cool.
Right.
And then suddenly, and then they get on Joe Rogan and then it's all downhill from there. And they just monetize this audience of like aggravated
Grifters.
Teenagers and grifters. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, man. That's why that was kind of the reason for the rebrand from Build Your Network to Travis Makes Friends.
Yeah.
It was just like, I cannot do another episode on networking.
No,
this is such a drain.
Well, we talked about that years ago. I was like, be careful because you can pigeonhole yourself real tight.
Yeah.
Like I had a dating brand back in the day, and then I was like, okay, I'm married now.
Yeah.
So,
how does this work? Yeah.
Yikes.
We're going to have to talk about something else.
Yeah. And I did, and it was fine, and the audience was there for it, but they were like, hey, I can't share your show with my friends because the name is this and the early episodes of this. Or like, can you separate out the ones that are not cringy into another feed so I can like not hide my phone screen on the subway? And that was a huge problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That was kind of why we split the feed recently and have like Travis Makes Money over here and Travis Makes Friends here. Like we're re-releasing some of like our bigger, classics, the Shaqs and the Dane Cooks and some of these other guys like on this channel.
Yeah.
Just to be like, this is a clean feed of like high quality, good conversations with really smart people.
Yeah.
Go listen to this show over here. If you want like business, quick hitting content, then you can go to this channel now.
Yeah. Smart.
But you kind of start over in a lot of ways when you're changing the niche of the content that much, because like I don't just talk about networking, like, so people don't come to me for a specific reason anymore,
right.
Which has been a whole new brand new problem to solve.
It's a broader brand instead of a narrow one, which gives you permission to create more stuff, but it also makes it harder for people to find you because they're not looking to solve a specific problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's other advice that I give to people. I know we have to wrap soon, but that's other advice that I give people about podcasting is they're like, man, I want to do a show like yours because Fridays we have advice, Sundays we have science where we debunk something like, cannabis
tarot cards or whatever.
What is it?
Tarot cards. Or
tarot cards or whatever. And we go like, here's why what they're doing and why it looks like it works and here's why it's fake. And then on Tuesdays or Thursdays or both, we have interviews with, I think this week was Ed Helms from The Office and The Hangover.
Great.
It's really cool. And people are like, I want to be able to do that. And I'm like, yes, it's awesome. The problem is people are finding the Jordan Harbinger Show because people are telling them about that, or it pops up in their algorithm, or they heard about it before, or they come for an interview and they stay for the advice stuff or whatever it is. You can't do that in the beginning when you don't have name recognition because people are like, oh, whatever. I'm not interested in that. Especially if you're not pulling like an Ed Helms, Shaq, Dane Cook type of guest roster, you're not going to be able to do that. So it does pay to start off really niche. Like if you're teaching guys how to sell cars at car dealerships, it should be called the car sales guy, and you should only talk about that for the most part, and that should be the first few years of your stuff. If you then throw in, which is what I did, I had dating only, and it was like meeting women only, for guys in their 20s only, or whatever, and then it was like early 30s. Then I was like, hey, my friend's friend was a big-time drug dealer, just got out of prison, really interesting story. Here's that episode, skip this if you're not interested. And then the audience was like, wow, that was good. But if I just pivoted to doing only that, I would have lost a ton of my audience because that's not why they were there. Mm-hmm. So I started throwing that in like once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, here and there. And then it was once I had multiple episodes per week. And then people were like, I love those even more than the other ones, but I still like the other ones. And then gradually over years, it's like steering a ship. I eventually got rid of all of the dating stuff entirely. And I added social science and behavioral science in place of that. So it's not totally gone, but it's mostly the dating specific stuff is gone. And then I added in the other things. And I I know I lost some audience because occasionally I'll get a letter from someone that's like, I used to listen to you 10 years ago and I got married and then like I wasn't interested in the new stuff, but I just saw this new thing and I'm going to give it a shot. I'm like, wow, okay. Because they stopped listening when I stopped doing the things that they needed to hear at the time.
Right.
And so it's hard to do broad stuff. It's better to narrow cast instead of broadcast.
Yeah.
We're not on television where people are getting exposed to us whether they like it or not. They have to be seeking us out. So it's better to do one thing that nobody else is doing or that very few other people are doing and do it as best you can. And only then can you be like drip feeding people stuff that you kind of like that has nothing to do with the reason that they showed up in the first place.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been fun. I know we both got to get going and move on to some other things.
They're going to kick us out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But appreciate you for coming on, dude.
Likewise.
Jordan Harbinger Show, wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube as well.
That's right.
Yeah, this is... I say to go check out people's stuff all the time because I'm a good host and that's what you're supposed to do.
You have to do that.
But I am being genuine when I say that I've been listening to Jordan stuff since before I started podcasting, and it's one of the only shows that remains in my lineup to this day. So
I appreciate
go
that.
check out Jordan's show. And I, whenever I coach anybody, by the way, on like interviewing and stuff like that, I'm always telling them like, go listen, just go binge Jordan's show because you'll get better at being a conversationalist, at being an interviewer by listening to people who are really good at it, and you're one of the best. So
thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I always love hanging out and catching up on some things. For those watching, listening, go check out Jordan Harbinger Show, and remember to leave every relationship better than you found it. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.